Now that you have your resume with the stories of your achievements, of what you accomplished and how you accomplished it, we're ready to start structuring the resume overall. So we have the companies and the roles and the dates for each of those here on the resume. But now what we're going to do is add what the important structure of a heading, the different section titles, and talking through what is important in terms of how we're structuring the information that we're displaying. So I had a heading that I put together that I'll add here. So you would, in your heading, include your name, your contact information. This is my contact info, and if you want, you can include where you're located. That's helpful, especially if you're looking for in-person roles. If you're located somewhere and you know that you need something remote, go ahead and leave your location off your resume. Then from there, what we'll do with the sections, there are a number of sections that people like to include, like a summary. So a summary is certainly something that is helpful. If you do include a summary, make sure to keep it brief. I'd say 2 or 3 lines, so maybe a sentence or two. And then experience. Often what I'll see is people will include a skills section, and really it's not useful to include a skills section because of a couple of reasons. So first, the skills section takes up a lot of space, and second, it doesn't really say much. And I think oftentimes we see a skills section and we say, oh, I know Excel and Microsoft Word, and if you're a programmer, you list all of the languages that you've used. And what it does is it detracts from the role that you're actually looking for. And so the skill section, if anything, is a distractor from the important information, which is the roles, the dates that you worked there, and the meat of your resume or the experience. So if you do have a skill section and you feel like you want to include it, what I'd recommend is putting it at the bottom underneath your experience. And the better way to do a skill section is through your bullet points. So for example, down here, if I want to describe the tools that I know, I could say I built Salesforce dashboards to reduce the mean time to resolution. So I'm talking about the skills or the tools that I know within my resume. And the more important the skill, the more often you'll want to include it. So if you're looking for a front-end engineering role, for example, you'll want to talk about how you know React and how you've used it in all of your roles. And say you worked in the back end in Java, but you don't want to do that for any of your future roles. Make sure to not include it in your bullet points, or to make it minimal. So removing it from past roles and maybe mentioning it in just 1 or 2 of the roles if it's something that you want to show that you know, but and you may even be really proficient in it. But the more that you put it on the resume, the more people will look at it and say, oh, you're a back-end developer that knows Java as opposed to a front-end developer. So make sure the content in your experience is showing that you're a fit for the role that you're going after. And you want to show, not tell. So another thing or another way that you can show instead of telling is by including links. So it could be a link to your portfolio if you're a designer, or it could be a link to your LinkedIn where it's more appropriate to put a picture and to tell stories and to have links to other projects that you've done. It could be your GitHub profile if you're a developer. And so having those links there, it shows your skills and abilities and tells your story in a way where if you list out skills, there's no way to know from a recruiter's perspective if you actually know those or how well you're working on them. But by listing them in your resume under the experience section, what recruiters are able to do is say, oh, you've worked with this tool for this many years, so you are a senior developer because you've been working with it for 5 to 10 years. So by putting it in your experience, it shows the level of depth that you know a specific tool or skill. And so under experience, the only other section I'd recommend is including your education. So I'll just copy this here and have education down here at the bottom. The way to structure your resume too, we talked about telling the story of having your dates really nice and clear, where you're going from role to role without any gaps, and having very clear timelines. And if there is overlap, what I'm going to do here is put extra experience or other experience. You can also call this projects if there's specific projects that you've worked on that weren't under a company. Maybe it was a project that you did at school, or maybe it was an extracurricular that you've done outside of work. Really great things to put here are awards that you've won, hackathons if you've completed those and won awards. So having this other experience is a good way to separate out from your main experience while also showing that you've done certain work or that you have certain skills or abilities. But make sure that it's under your main experience section, and then wrap up with your education.